These are to hold the bench onto the system, and you should have two of these. When you get them out of the box, make sure they open and close properly and they lock into position. Whatever bench top you've decided to put on, that's a great thing about our system. You can have any bench top you like. We've decided that we're going for a 32mm, nicely laminated bench top, and we'll go through how to fit that. Okay, the next thing we're going to need is the tools and the equipment. Depending on what you're going to screw it to, today we're going to put it up against this nice solid concrete wall. So we're going to need ourselves some nice concrete screws. Of course, if you're going to put it into a timber frame through plaster wall, you're going to use the appropriate timber screws. You're going to put it into sheet metal or into a steel post, you're going to need the appropriate equipment to do that as well. Next thing you're going to need is a good level. You need that to level up, make sure everything's parallel. We're going to use a cordless drill. You can do whatever you like. We like to use that. And today we're going to use a hammer drill. Obviously not going to be required if you're going to put it into a timber frame or a steel frame. The next thing we've got to work out is, depending on which bench that you've decided you're going to use, we want to come in at least 200mm from each end. So we've decided we're going to go around about 800mm apart. We're going to make our brackets 800mm apart when we bolt them onto the wall. So I'm happy with that. That gives us about 200mm on each end. Depending on if you're going to put it into a stud wall, you're going to have to allow to make sure that you can put those brackets at a point where they're going to go into the studs and not just into the plaster. So we'll get that out of our way. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to be 800 apart. So if it's a stud wall, we'll find the studs. On here it doesn't matter, so I'll put a mark where we're going to be. We've measured 800mm out to where the next one's going to be. I'll put another mark where that's going to be. Then of course we're going to work out the height of the bench. We want ours 900mm off the ground, so we're just going to measure it at 900. I'll put a mark on the wall for that. Then so we get them nice and level, we're now going to use our level. Pretty easy. From one end to the other, use the level, draw ourselves a straight line, and now we've got one spot for that leg, one spot for that leg, and we're ready to put our bench on. Okay, the next thing we've got to allow for our thickness of our bench top, as we're going for 30mm bench top, we've measured down 30mm, put that onto the wall there, and it's quite easy. The top of your bracket, line it up with your 30mm and you line with your first mark it through that first hole. Once that's marked with a pencil, that's where we're going to drill and we're going to put the screw. Okay, so the next process, we've pre-drilled these, but obviously you don't need to do that if you're just going into timber, you'll just screw it straight in. So we've pre-drilled the hole. Got our first one in. The next stage is, we've got to now make sure that this is vertical. We put it up into its position. Get our level. Make sure we've got our level and we've got our bracket nice and vertical. And then we install the next two screws. So there's one just underneath here. And one down the bottom. Now just install one of the brackets. Make sure it goes up and down and nothing hits. Works fantastic. Repeat the process on the next one and away we go. Okay, so we're going to repeat the process just like we've done the first bracket. Put that one in, lift it up, make sure it locks into position. We're going to use our level again. Make sure we've got it level on the wall. We've already pre-drilled these holes. Next two screws. We've now got ourselves our brackets on the wall. So our next process is we have to make sure that these are going to be nice and level. So back to using our level again. Put our level on the top, and our adjusters here will adjust that to get it perfectly level. We just want to do little tweaks until it's perfectly right. Once we've got it in position, we lock the lock nuts up. Go to the next one, make sure that one's the same. Get yourself a couple of spanners, make sure they're locked right, nice and tight, so they won't come loose or anything. And we're ready to put the bench top on. So before we put the bench top on, just going to explain to you that these brackets have to run square and parallel to each other. So you can either, when you're underneath, you can either use a square like that, or the other way to do is once the bench top goes on top, you can measure off each end of that bench top and get yourself nice and square. But the most important thing is that they must run parallel to each other. So we want to be able to measure from that point there to that point there, that point there and that point there, and make sure that they're running parallel and make sure that they're both going to be square off the wall. We've now got our bench top. I've set it on the top. Push it up against the wall. We're going to work out ourselves where you're going to have it. I've worked out we're pretty much central how we want. So the next thing we've got to allow for is we need a little bit of movement for the bench to go up and down. So we're going to use ourselves some 5mm spacers. And we're just going to pull it out from the wall, put that spacer in each side. Making just a little bit of room for the mechanism to operate. So we've now got ourselves our position where we are from the wall. We're going to measure off the back here. We're at exactly 200mm. So we now have to make sure that that front one is at 200mm. That's one way of getting it square, or of course we can use the square itself and make sure the mechanism is straight off the wall. So the next thing we've got to do now is we've got to make sure that these are running square off the wall, and there's two ways to do it. We can measure at the back, and that's at 200mm there. So we can go back to the front, measure that at the front, and adjust that to 200mm. That's one way of doing it. Or of course we can use our trusty square, and we can put that straight off the wall and we can square it up that way as well. Once we're happy and we've got it square, get your first screw, and it's going to go up directly into that spot there. And that's that first piece tied off. Okay, so now we've put our first piece in position. We're now going to use our little brackets here, and they're going to hold the back of the system in place. We're going to put one in the middle here and one at the back. I suggest that we put the one at the back first. Once we get one side in, we're just going to double check that with our measuring tape. Okay, I'm really happy with that. Going to put another one in the middle here. We've got all those in position. Double check that we're still square. I'm really happy with that, and we'll go and repeat the process on the other side. Okay, so we have to repeat the process on the other side. Same again, two ways of doing it. Either measure off the edge of your bench top. That's of course as long as your bench top is square and you haven't got like a nice round bull nose. Or the other way to do it is to measure off the front of that bracket to that bracket, and then we'll do the same on the back. Make sure that they're running parallel. I've already measured this, and I'm happy that I've got it parallel. So I'm going to put that front screw in. Once we've got that, we just repeat the process like we did on the other side, and we put the two centre brackets in to hold it on. Put the two brackets in place. One we've got at the back there. We've already put him in. Put the other screw in underneath. And we've got ourselves our bench top all set up and we're ready to go. Okay, so now we've got the bench top. All we have to do is pull our little packers out that we had to space them away from the wall. And it's quite simple now. All we have to do is grab hold of those little handles underneath, lift the weight off slightly, pull the handles out, and fold it back down. Once it's down, I want to put it back up, grab it anywhere, and all you're going to do is start to hear that nice firm lock where the safety lock is locked into place, and you've got yourself one solid bench top. Nice simple system, takes us about 5 minutes to fit. So the average person should be able to do it in about that time. Don't need any super special tools. Depending on your application, you can see that it's fit for lots of different processes, kitchens, laundries, workshops, barbecue areas, trailers, so many different things, simply because of the strength that it has and the simplicity of it. As you can see, it's a fairly simple system. Takes us about 5 minutes to fit. But if you have any troubles with it at all, please don't hesitate to send us an email straight off our website there, or give us a call. We're quite happy to talk to you about it. It is a fairly simple system, and good luck with it.